From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is a severe weather alert.
Hey folks, good afternoon. It's 2:19 here in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center. We're back with you just 20 minutes after that last update, because now that we're starting to see this line push on through, me and Taylor actually stepped outside and felt it, and it's definitely packing a little bit of a punch. We also have a few damage reports coming in. So we have a 54-mile-an-hour gust reported in Liberty Hill community. That's just underneath severe threshold. Our live radar earlier, if you tuned in, we actually had some gusts 55, 60 on that, and that seems to be supported there. And also we do have reports of some damaged power lines down on Riddle Lane in Loretto. So, you know, as far as power outages are concerned, we're probably now starting to see some of those. And clearly, with these gusts, they do pack enough of a punch to maybe bring some trees down and maybe some limbs down on power poles. Yeah, Taylor, you read my mind. We're going to prog this out east. That seems to be pretty much where it's headed. That's a pretty good line here. That's actually pretty much along the gust front where those winds are. Liberty Hill, Union Hill, that makes sense that it's there now. We've already seen reports out of there. Revelo at 222, Liberty Grove at 223, Big Creek at 226, Campbellville 226 as well. Fall River, Bodenham to Gibsonville at 227, 5 Points at 229, Olivet at 236, same for Linville. Pulaski there, Central Giles County, we'll call it 239, Oak Grove at 242, Powell Chapel at 242 as well. That's kind of heading further east, kind of rubbing up against the west side of the 65 corridor. So definitely makes sense that we're starting to see a few reports of that. I'm keeping a very close eye on National Weather Service chat, because
they said anything off of what I said?
I'm looking at that, no, but they do have a heavy thunderstorm advisory out for this.
Okay.
And our friend Bill Phillips is actually typing as well, so it wouldn't shock me if we get a couple more reports coming in here. And go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things, I know there's no severe thunderstorm warning, and just because you're getting damaged doesn't mean you have to have a severe thunderstorm
50
warning.
miles an hour can do it.
50 miles an hour
45.
can do it, especially with some of these tree limbs and trees that are damaged from the ice storm. I know that here in Lawrenceburg, yeah, we got some ice, but it was worse off to the northwest, like in Lewis County, Wayne County. So there are trees that are weakened from that ice storm. So instead of having a 60-mile-an-hour gust causing damage, it could be a 40, 45, or 50-mile-an-hour gust that's doing damage. We're getting reports of some street signs that are tossed over because of the strong winds, and that was over in the area where we kind of zoomed in and said, hey, there's like some 60-mile-an-hour gusts that the radar is seeing right now. That looks like it has verified down at the ground based on some of the things that are being damaged.
Sure, like it.
So, and that's the reason why we're on here giving the latest information. This stuff, it might not be so-called severe thunderstorm warning, but it's causing damage, it's causing impact to these communities in here, and we definitely need to give you a heads up on that.
Absolutely, and I mean, that's exactly right. 57 miles an hour or 58 miles an hour is just a common threshold used to define severe thunderstorm, but clearly, you know, impact-based situations are days like this where, yeah, it can be 45, it can be 50 miles an hour that do that. So we're continuing to watch that. I am looking at a map right now. Oh, so perfect, there you go, velocities. Those sharp northwesterlies now. Try to pick Soul Query down here north of Union Hill. That's probably 45 right there. So we're starting to see a little bit of some pushes out along the front. Oh, right on the money. There you go, again, 47.
There's a little pixel here. I'm just curious what it says. I don't think that's 76.
Oh, yeah, I think that's just
a little noise.
So ignore that. But yeah, mid-40s to around 50 miles an hour. That seems to be kind of a widespread situation as far as the winds are concerned. But again, it's more of the impacts than if it's strictly 58 miles an hour and severe or not. And we just got a photo. It's not a photo of damage, but it's a map that shows where damage reports and power outages are coming in. And Taylor, if you go northwest on the radar just a little bit, up towards 64 Deerfield, if you remember, and if you were watching us, about 30 minutes to 45 minutes ago, we saw a surge right here.
I could get the radar back. Yeah, there it is right there.
Okay, so hold that right there, and I'm gonna put my finger over the map of where the orange, where the damage report is. So 64 is here, the damage report is right there.
That verifies.
So right on the money. So this is kind of one of those benefits of being able to see it right on the ground with your own X-band. Looks like we're starting to get more power outages. Maybe wait a couple minutes for that to populate in links. Or, I mean, it might even have it now.
Let me see. I'll go back to it.
But I'm looking now. Is this total?
This is total. That has increased since last time. It was 300 last time.
Yeah, it was 300 last time. We're up to 700 now. That updates every 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure if we wait a little longer, that's going to continue to update. Still 200 in Lauderdale here. Wouldn't shock me to see that increase as well. But again, like I said, impact base is the name of the game. Doesn't have to be a warning to start causing that. That's why we're hopping on here, because we're using our better judgment. We've seen reports. May as well come on, let you know what's going on. And man, look at that. We're starting to get really heavy downpours here.
Yeah, Tasha says this wind is fierce, which, yeah, we both experienced that outside.
Yes, we did. I got dust all in my eyes.
I was standing on my front porch and a wind gust blew metal chair into my leg. Well, I hope you're
all right.
I hope you're all right, Tasha. I mean,
that's the dangers of gusts like this.
Yeah,
you do want to go inside. Even if they're not severe, it is definitely recommended, especially with these heavy thunderstorm advisories.
Yeah,
you got to keep in mind why heavy thunderstorm advisories exist. It doesn't mean to go to the tornado shelter, but it means to inch on inside, go ahead, maybe don't sit by a window if it's going to be windy. Just go inside, watch some TV or something. That's what that's for, right?
Yep.
And I'm not calling you out specifically. I'm just saying,
right.
Certainly in cases like this, you can have that happen. And here in Lawrenceburg, when me and Taylor were watching this over there at the ballpark next to our studios, we heard some big metal.
I'm not sure what that was. I know they're doing some stuff over there with the Lawrence County baseball field.
Yeah.
That could have been something like that, but a huge bang,
some big metal
bang,
clash
something
there.
crashed.
So there you go. We were hammering it in here, but it really does not take 60 miles an hour to do that kind of stuff. And especially with a lot of it, really doesn't matter. That's still a large, massive wind coming down. You got something?
Yeah, well, we're getting a question about, that's why I popped OHX up there, getting a question about Murray and Marshall County. Who's to say that the wind that we're seeing here in Lawrence County doesn't extend up into Murray and Marshall? So there's spots along this gust front that are packing a punch.
Absolutely, and I would say with confidence that we're probably seeing very similar conditions, probably from Murfreesboro all the way down to probably into the Shoals Metro, to be honest with you. We haven't seen quite as many reports as that. We don't monitor that quite as closely because north of Murray County, that's out of our viewing area. But certainly in Columbia itself, Spring Hill, you're already getting those heavy downpours. If not now, certainly within the last 15 or 20 minutes, you probably saw gusts very similar, 45, 50. And we could have seen gusts even higher than that in isolated spots as well. Still no warning up there, but this is moving east pretty quickly. Yeah, about 40 miles an hour or so. So we'll call out some times of arrival here. It looks like the next area we're watching is the I-65 corridor here in southern Tennessee. Liberty Grove, Campbell Station, and Lee's Corner. That's now. Linville at 228, Possible at 230, Fall River and Olivet at 231. So here just within the next 5 minutes. Bryant Station, 5 points. Mooresville at 232, 234. Berlin, Bonnertown, 236 to 237. Give it a couple minutes of wiggle room there. Caney Spring, 237. Holtz Corner at 239. And Eagleville, that's up here just outside of our viewing area at 241. So we're still seeing that push east. Looks like those gusts, are almost certainly on top of I-65 now. Taylor, you and me were just looking at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of just ahead of it, right? So if you're driving on I-65, maybe listening to us on your Bluetooth speaker or something like that, you're probably getting that right about now.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we have no severe thunderstorm warning, but I want to emphasize we're getting damage even outside of severe thunderstorm warnings.
We are.
And so again, just because you don't have one, your phone didn't alert you, doesn't mean that these storms don't mean business. I mean, we've got power poles down. There's reports from Amber Peters. The pole is broken close to Red Hill Market. That's why there's power outages going on. So these winds are causing damage. So even though there's no warning out there, I would say if you're in Spring Hill, it's coming through right now, Columbia obviously, but if you're in Lewisburg and Marshall County, down towards Pulaski, Campbellsville, down towards Elkton, even over as far east as Fayetteville at this point, be wary of this line moving in.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's packing a bit of a punch. It's causing power outages. It's causing tree damage,
power pole damage,
power pole damage. Heck, there was even the video that is on our social media page by Sam Camp out there in the Deerfield area. It looked like part of the roof of a mobile home had been lifted and there was insulation inside that was being tossed out.
Hey, that doesn't surprise me. We were talking about that earlier today with places that, if you live in a mobile home or you have like a less than site built structure, it really wouldn't take 60 miles an hour to do that. And I want to say, speaking of damage, we're getting reports of power poles down swinging on Jackson Street here in Lawrenceburg.
Yeah, I did see that too.
Yeah, you saw that. That was just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's on this side of town. But, there you go, right? So it certainly, I'm starting to suspect, you put together a picture when you get these reports. You sort of do a little bit of forensics. We probably did get some 60-mile-an-hour gusts.
I would suspect.
I am really starting to raise my confidence in that. And these things are subtle, right? You can't blame anybody for not having any warnings because it happens in the lowest part of the atmosphere. NEXRAD is way up here and way over here. You're not going to be seeing that with the typical tools. And even we on our radar saw it only in a matter of seconds, right? So these things can be sneaky like that, and I'm really starting to think we're going to start seeing more verifications of 55 or 60 mile an hour gusts over the next few hours, probably.
Question about Sheffield, so we can go down here into Colbert County.
Absolutely.
Tuscumbia, Muscle Shoals, Sheffield area. Definitely seeing a good
you got some
hefty cell there. I'm going to get you full.
Yeah, thanks. I was about to say that's kind of an interesting shape. Okay, so at least on the velocities, we're still a little elevated.
But here's the gust front. If I right here.
Oh yeah, you can.
There's your gust
You can
front.
see it. It kind of goes out of frame there, just south of, pretty much west of 43, probably paralleling it.
You see it right
that's
there.
a much better view. Yeah, there you go. So that's where the bulk of those winds are, right there along that gust front. That's a little bit out ahead of the rain. So I don't want you to be thinking, oh, it's not raining yet. The wind's not going to arrive. The wind's going to arrive probably 10, 15 minutes before the heaviest downpours you get. That's kind of how these outflow boundaries and gust fronts tend to act. And down here, we're also moving east at about 40 miles an hour. Let's call out some times of arrival. Fairview right now, Littleville, Kingtown, and Leeton were pretty much within the next 3 minutes, right? 2:32, 2:34, Elgin as well. Bethel at 2:35, White Oak at 2:37, same for Whitehead. Those communities are kind of right next to each other. Wheeler Dam Village at 2:39, Lennon Hill 2:41, Anderson at 2:41, Red Bank 2:42, Rogersville at 2:44, Town Creek 2:45, Bethsaida at 2:47. So we're starting to head out towards the northern portions of Lawrence County here, alternate 72. For example. So certainly unsettled conditions in North Alabama too. We've been talking about southern Tennessee, but make no mistake, these conditions are probably present for all of us.
I would think.
From Murray County, probably all the way down to Red Bay, I'd say.
Yeah, I would definitely think so too. Some other,
I'll tell you what,
see.
If you didn't know any better, that shape sure looks interesting, huh?
Yeah, I would think so.
Absolutely.
I would
Thankfully,
be
it's
highly
elevated.
suspicious of that. Linesdown, Valley Road, and Gibbs Road. Erica Judkins over here on Rabbit Trail Road. There's a tree that just fell. So again, we're getting damage.
Absolutely, yeah.
With this gust front. And again, it doesn't have to be severe thunderstorm warned, because in order for have severe thunderstorm warning criteria, that's 58 miles per hour or greater. And yeah, there's probably some spots here and there that are getting up to 60, but most of these winds are probably around 45 to 50 miles per hour. So that's below the threshold. That's why the Weather Service has not opted to go with the severe thunderstorm warning right now, but that doesn't mean that we don't have impacts. So that's why we're on here giving you the latest information, because these are causing impacts. These are causing power lines to come down, trees to fall. This is becoming a impactful situation for you.
Absolutely.
Even though we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings. So just kind of quickly running through, Jamie Langford says, we just came through Red Hill area about 30 minutes ago on our way to Waynesboro. The wind was really whipping. Power out on Knott Road. So again, we're getting more and more power outages as this gust front continues to progress east. And just like Chase was saying, I mean, who's to say what's happening here in Lawrence County and now moving into parts of Giles County isn't happening anywhere else along this line? We've got precedent here in Lawrence County and Giles County that this stuff is producing some pretty significant wind with it. Now, significant not meaning 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, but significant enough that it's causing the damage going on. So who's to say that's not happening in Lexington, Alabama, in Anderson, Alabama, over towards Rogersville right now? Who's to say it's not happening there too?
And the only reason we're getting reports and we're relaying what we see in Lawrenceburg is because it's what we saw. It's because we're here, right? So, absolutely. If you're in the shoals, if you're in pretty much anywhere, you know what? Just send us your reports if you can do so safely. We're not encouraging you to go stand out in the thunderstorm, but if you happen to see a lawn chair blow over, even something as innocuous like that, be sure to let us know. Please do. You got something, Taylor?
Chris Palmgren in one of our chats just said there's damage being reported in northwestern Alabama. So their suspicions are talking, or were just clarified there. This is happening all along that gust front, even though you don't have severe thunderstorm warnings, which honestly, I will tell you from my perspective right now, there needs to be severe thunderstorm warnings for this. I don't care if it's not 58 miles per hour or 60 all over the place.
It's certainly been
This is causing impact. Yeah, there needs to be warnings out there.
And it's definitely good to kind of treat it, and I've said this a couple times, on the basis of impacts, and we're getting reports of impacts like this. It's very fortunate we have the freedom to come in and let you know about what's going on. We're glad to do so. So please, like I was saying just a moment ago, if you got any reports, Matter of fact, I'm actually looking at a photo now of Riddle Lane, and yeah, that's a couple power poles down on the road.
Yeah,
right?
is that in the chat?
That's an National Weather Service chat, yeah. And looks like fire's on scene. They're going to be disabled on that. Nobody's hurt or anything, thankfully. But I mean, yeah, it certainly is starting to look to me like we probably were getting some of those 60-mile-an-hour gusts trickling on down. Yeah, if you want to take a look at velocities here, for example, on our live radar, we can see how it's looking. And we're kind of seeing that bowing segment. Gusts don't look too remarkable out here. I think down here is our main corridor. I'd say that's probably 40, 45.
Yeah, 40 to 50 maybe.
Okay, yeah, that makes about sense. And that's kind of the trouble of today, right? We're not seeing a huge wall of hurricane force winds. That's the trouble. These are these very subtle, isolated pockets of 50, 55, and probably up to 60. I can say that with some confidence, mixing down at times. And again, it doesn't take that, but I'm starting to suspect, and Taylor, as you said, you definitely agree, that we're seeing perhaps, I'd say, scattered more than isolated.
Yeah, this is a bit more of an issue than just one or two spots.
Oh, absolutely. This has become a little more widespread. And Shelton, our friend Shelton Barnett's reporting numerous outages in Summertown. So that makes perfect sense. I mean, you were kind of right there in the midst of that about 30, 45 minutes ago. I'm sure we have some power poles damage there, right? I mean, if you see that trend there. If you want, let's check the power outage map again. It's probably updated since we last checked, and if it hasn't, it will soon.
What was it, 700?
It was 700 last time. If it hasn't updated.
900.
So we're up to 900. There we go. We're closing in on 1,000 without power here in Lawrence County. I'm getting a couple more reports there. So let's call it a rough 1,000, give or take there. So certainly slightly higher impacts there than anywhere else so far. Not too surprising because we've been seeing so many reports here in the county.
Yeah, and just go ahead and just tell you guys, keep sending your comments and your and such. I'm not sure. Can you? I think you can post a picture in the Facebook chat.
I believe so.
I think you can. Let me see if I can.
If you can't, do tag us on Facebook. Things like that. We're always checking for images. We share them. Twitter is a very Twitter, formerly known as Twitter X. It's a very useful outlet as well. You can tag us at TN Valley Weather, and
it doesn't look like you can comment or post a picture.
Well, that's all right. Just let us know what you're seeing, and we'll certainly relay that to the people who need to see it, and we'll let you know if we see it here, and you can help us out, put the picture together a little bit more, certainly.
Yeah, just some of the other stuff. Again, we're still tracking, as you see there, and I can go ahead and just do another quick storm track while we discuss some other things. It's kind of like the leading edge of this gust front. So again, this is where you're going to have the best chance at seeing 40, 50, maybe up to 60 mile per hour gusts on occasion. So there's some of the communities right there with Culleoka, 240, Linville, 240 as well. And what people are seeing, if you see, let me put it this way, and Chase, you can call out some of those names here as well, but just know that when he calls your name out, this is some of the stuff that you're going to possibly see in your area. Power lines down. We've got trampolines being tossed around. Looked like someone's camper, they said, was almost toppled by the wind. Well, power outages.
That goes right back to what we were saying earlier. If you don't feel safe in those situations, you can use your discretion. And by all means, especially if it is something that gets rickety around 40 miles an hour or so, mobile living situations like that.
Yeah, so just know, based on what I just said, when he reads your community out,
expect that.
That's probably what you could expect.
Absolutely. So let's go through here a little bit, see what we got. Campbell Station, I keep saying Campbellsville Station. That's right about now. Culleoka 240, Linville at 240, Olivet at 241. I think that's a regularly scheduled update there. And I will say from Culleoka to Olivet, that's pretty much now. You'll notice it's pretty much right up against this corridor. So let's just go ahead and call it now. That's within a couple of minutes. Fountain Heights at 241, Mooresville at 246, Bryant Station at 248, Pulaski at 248, Oak Grove at 249, Powell Chapel 251, Brick Church 253, Berlin at 253 as well, Crescent View, Cornersville 254 and 255, Lewisburg as we head out towards I-65 and east. That's going to be right around the 3 o'clock hour, pretty much right on the money there. So again, it looks like we're starting to see that timeline unfold pretty much right on the money here. And a little bit of good news, because if you want to go to Radar Network and do what we did earlier and draw a big line, a big white line everywhere west.
Who's
because we have now lost the severe thunderstorm watch for Lewis County, Robertson County, Sumner County, those are outside of our area, and Wayne County. So certainly a couple of us are starting to lose our watches. So there you go. So you see this white line pretty much following that line of thunderstorms. If you're on this side of it, you are okay. You are done with the severe weather. You're just going to have some rain, light to moderate rainfall, and some rumbles of thunder. If you're south and east, that's still to come. What we've been talking about, you could probably reasonably expect that over the next couple of hours. It's currently 2:40. As we head over the next couple of hours, we're certainly not done yet. I think we're about halfway done with this.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's at least gotten through about almost half of our viewing area at this point.
We're just headed into Lawrence County in Alabama. Gust fronts probably in Limestone, just I'd say west of Ardmore a little bit. Probably over the next 15 minutes, if I had to estimate, we'll start seeing those gusts there in Ardmore. In fact, we have our Ardmore cam. If you can, over there on Weather 6, you can turn that north and west. It actually might already be west. But over the next little bit, we'll see that continue to push east and a little bit southeast as well. So, well done yet. Very interesting.
Before I try and make sure that camera is situated,
yeah, sure.
Just a couple more questions that people. Eric is asking: are there any signs of weakening? And that's an interesting, somewhat of a tough question to answer right now, because when you look at, and Chase, you probably be with this as well. When you look at that whole radar image, these don't look mean.
No,
these
they
don't look mean at all.
And that's kind of the hard part, because these aren't exactly screaming, derecho. That's what I've been saying earlier. This is not a wall of hurricane force wind. Certainly not, even though we do have high impacts in some areas. You look at the radar and, first and foremost, the lightning count, I would estimate, is probably in the high dozens, right? We're not seeing extremely electric storms, and these cores aren't the strongest I've ever seen. They're not 65 dBz. We're not seeing pinks and whites and blacks hop off the screen. So you wouldn't initially think that this is causing such impacts. But, as far as weakening goes, I would not say weakening is the word I would use. But certainly it's in a bit of a steady state at the moment, unless we start getting less reports, which would be a good thing, right? But as we head through Lawrence County in Alabama, as we head through Limestone County, as we head through Giles County, as we head through Marshall County, we'll be able to give you a little bit of a better idea as to whether or not it's weakening, because reports are the name of the game. We need ground truth out there. So, like I said, let us know what you're seeing out there. Don't put yourself in any danger. We're not asking you to do that. But
there's your Ardmore camera.
Oh, perfect. So here's Ardmore. Nice and dark and spooky off in the distance. That's what we've been seeing for these cameras. And if I squint, I can kind of see that shelf cloud right here off in the distance. 76 degrees with a dew point of 63, winds out of the south. So the conditions pretty much right around the same that we've been seeing across the area. So is it 59 here in the, am I seeing that right, Taylor, behind us? That it's already down to 59 here at the Tennessee Valley Weather Center?
Yeah, 59 with the dew point of 57.
So there you go. I mean, right behind this is the front, you're plummeting with those temperatures, right? We're getting those cooler batches of air that pretty much diminish those severe weather chances completely. Again, past that line that we showed earlier. So about halfway done. Let us know if you have any reports. And
I know that I'm kind of getting the radar situated here. I know we're getting some more people kind of asking about northern Alabama. And yeah, the focus, we're obviously not focusing on just one specific area. We're trying to get everybody in here. But from the onset of this started with the cell in Lawrence County, seeing the 60-mile-an-hour gust on a radar, hearing some reports of damage and stuff, and now it's grown into, okay, this entire line is definitely producing some damage out there. So we don't want, even though we kind of started in southern Tennessee, we don't want to lose focus on everybody else. So I hear some people talking about the Littleville area as well over there in the shoals. So I'm going to flip you over here to links 2
yeah,
real
please
quick.
do. I wanted to mention something here on the radar. If we go down to Vina, the Weather Service in Huntsville were mentioning they're watching a stronger storm near Vina for the possibility of hail and microbursts. They haven't issued anything. They said they were considering that. So as far as actual warnings go, we might see one pop up here down in Franklin County over the next little bit. We'll watch that. And that's why we're sticking with you, right? That's why we're going to stick here for a little bit and just talk about what we're seeing and talk with you as those results and reports continue to come on. And yeah, thanks. You were reading my mind. Maybe bring it
Well,
are these moving more northeast?
Well, let me clear it out real quick. I kind of went back and looked. These are the ones that are developing.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
like right ahead of the gust front.
Oh, and there you go.
So there's a severe. So yeah, these are kind of moving more northeast as opposed to east.
All right.
But they'll eventually get to the east.
They will, yeah. So here we go. First severe thunderstorm warning in our area of the day. This goes until, if we could get the time on that real quick. You can just click it.
3:30.
3:30. All right. This goes until 3:30. That's for the next 45 minutes. Sorry to make you
No,
keep
you're
drawing
fine.
that.
Let me redo that.
Primary threat with this is hail up to an inch in diameter, winds up to 60 miles an hour, which, you know what? Hey, we've been seeing that. So let's go ahead and take a look at some times of arrival here. This is kind of along the front edge of this kind of cluster of cells where this warning is. So Frankfurt at 246, Belgreen 246, Hawk Pride 248, Glasgow Corner at 249. Same for Crooked Oak out there. New Bethel at 250, Lime Rock 255, Flatwoods at 256, Tuscumbia, Sheffield 258, 259, Fairview, Culpert Heights at 259, Russellville 301, Muscle Shoals 302, Littleville at 303. So
There's Louisville for those who were asking.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're pretty much heading right into the top of the hour and right as we're heading into the 43 corridor of Colbert County and Franklin County. All right, so here's velocity. You know, we're not in a great spot to really see those straight line winds because the radar is down here and the storm is right here. The winds are probably going like this, and radars don't really sample winds going perpendicular to them like that very well. So we can reasonably extrapolate from the information we've been given that this is probably 50, 55, 60 miles an hour with those, and the possibility of some hail. And you know, I was saying hail wasn't the biggest threat here, but
yeah.
I mean, if we go back to reflectivity, you did see a pretty...
There's some pretty good cores there.
Yeah, there were some pretty decent cores in there. You see where these higher colors are. If nothing else, I'm reasonably confident we're probably at least seeing nickels in there. But yeah, up to an inch of hail, I could easily see that happening.
Matter of fact, let me do this real quick. Is it storm?
Oh, if you're doing the hail thing, yeah.
Yeah, this
on the
is
top bar.
this is the updraft.
Oh,
So
updraft
basically,
intensity. There you
yeah.
go.
So for those who are looking at this, they see updraft intensity. What this is an estimate of the radar seeing how much liquid is kind of being lofted up in the updraft, and the higher the number, the stronger the updraft. Therefore, you're more hail, the better chance you get hail, and the hail growth can be bigger. So anytime you start getting to that kind of yellows and oranges right there, right near Vina, that you're probably seeing about nickel, maybe quarter size hail at that point. That's a pretty good updraft going.
Yeah, I could definitely see that there. And you see a few other cores from Colbert Heights up in Colbert County and to the northern portions of Franklin County, but this is definitely our hefty one here that we're keeping an eye on. That's probably the one that actually initiated this warning.
I think so.
We were looking at the chat here, and they said they were watching near Vina. So as far as actual severe conditions on the ground are going, let's just go ahead and call it the entire box here, because as Taylor was saying earlier, we probably should go ahead and treat this line as such. Thankfully, go ahead, Taylor.
I was going to say, I'm seeing every now and then, you mentioned how, obviously the radar beam and stuff, and basically in a nutshell, the best thing I can explain why you aren't seeing the best velocity right now is if you have like a police officer or a state trooper who's radaring you, which direction is he pointing the radar gun? He's pointing the radar gun directly at you, to where you're coming to him or you're going away from him. That's how you register velocity. You have to go exactly towards or away. Well, in this case, towards or away have to be that way and that way from the radar site. Well, the gust front's over here and it's moving this way.
Yep.
So it's moving away from the radar beam, so you're not really seeing much. But
all about
every now and then along the leading edge of some of these cells, you can get a little bit of some useful data, and there are some little spots down here like towards Atwood and near the Hodges community that, even though they're not strong, they're sticking out as somewhat useful information, I guess, as if you will. So it's definitely pinpointing that there's definitely some stronger winds that are going on right ahead of some of these cells right here. So
no doubt about it.
So even though the gust front is well off to the east, you see it's actually attached. Here's the gust front right here. You see it finally attaches itself to the cell here.
And it's no wonder that this went severe then, with that being the case there. So
these are still surface based, and they're definitely, you're getting some good wind that's probably getting close to Alabama Highway 172 right now, Alabama Highway 187 between Belgreen and Hodges.
Absolutely.
That's where you're probably seeing some pretty good wind.
No doubt about it. Yep, no surprise that this one's the one that went severe then. And you know, I will even add to what you were saying about these little handy velocity spots. Every now and then we see a little sign of rotation, and I don't think there's a major tornado risk with these at the moment. But when you do see these little areas that quickly spin up, even if it's not a tornado threat, you could translate some of that wind down in a mesovortex to the ground, right? So those can be also useful indicators of winds that are actually making it down to the ground, even if they're not tornadic, right? So it doesn't have to be tornadic to be extremely impactful. Looks like these cells are kind of merging, too,
Yeah.
I'd say. So that's another threat. As those merge, they might bow out a little bit and increase those wind chances.
And you
at
see that
least in
gust
gray.
front continue to just kick out.
It really is, yeah. It's pretty much just passed over Russellville now. Phil Campbell, Hackleburg, you're probably next in line over the next 10, 15 minutes. And as far as the thresholds of this goes, I do have some comments up here now.
Yeah.
I saw some people in the Muscle Shoals, you'll have a couple mailing addresses in Muscle Shoals that have that, but the polygon is actually just south of 72. It pretty much stops at 72. So as far as people who are concerned about that, this is kind of lifting eastish and northeast. The south side of the shoals over the next 45 minutes or so, we could see conditions like that. But right now, the shoals itself and Florence, you are not in that severe thunderstorm warning. Just wanted to mention that real quick.
Also want to mention this. Dylan is asking, did the time frame for the storms change? No, they did not. And
We're right on the money pretty much.
Right on the money pretty much. And at this point, I can just kind of do a big storm track overview because
yeah, we
obviously
have it on Links 1, but at this point, we can just honestly prog it out. Maybe you want to do 120, maybe?
Yeah, go out in 120 minutes. So let me...
Yeah, so what he's doing, he's updating it to where the path will go out for 2 hours.
And then I'm going to reduce I'm going to have more
of the big cities.
More of the big cities.
Yeah.
I think that was 70 gets it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so out towards about 4. We get
And
to
after Tullahoma, I will switch it to
perfect.
the next one line. So there you go.
All right, yeah, there we go. All right, so here we go for the line. Remember, even if you're not in the severe thunderstorm warning, we're probably getting very strong winds out there, 45, 50, and to be honest with you, just meteorologist intuition, probably 55 to 60 at isolated spots. Pulaski, within a few minutes, 255. Lewisburg at 258. Rogersville, Sam, hope you're watching there.
Oh, he is. He's out and in it.
I'm sure he's out and in it, keeping us updated there. Russellville at 258. Phil Campbell at 314 because you're kind of right there at the axis. That'll be pushing a little more east. Elkmont at 316. Cortland at 320. Ardmore at 323. Shelbyville at 326. Athens at 335. Fayetteville 338. Moulton at 343. So we're kind of heading into Lawrence County in Alabama down here. Lynchburg at 351, Hazel Green 354, Tullahoma at 358. That's right around the top of the hour. Oh, perfect. There we go. Manchester at 359, Decatur 4 o'clock even, Meridianville at 405, Madison 410, Still Springs 414, Priceville 415, Winchester 419, Deckard at 420, Hartselle at 420, Huntsville around 420, 421. Somerville at 429, and Sewanee, I got a lot of friends at Sewanee there, at 435. So we're pretty much right on schedule. I'm looking at Links 1, and I mean, we pretty much echoes these sentiments perfectly. So I think we're on track here to get this out of our core area, at least as far as the severe thunderstorm conditions or strong storm conditions, within the next couple of hours, within about the next 2 or 2.5 hours.
And one of the things I want to mention is the times that he just gave out. That's roughly with the gust front. So you're going to get that big gust of wind before there's any rainfall.
Yep, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have a 10-minute delay before you get 50-mile-an-hour gusts and heavy downpours. They're certainly not going to be exactly on top of each other. So you got to consider that as well. Don't think just because it's not raining that it's not going to be strong to severe.
Exactly. So that goes in line with a lot of people usually wait to hear the rain and then, okay, now here comes the rough stuff. No, the rough stuff's going to happen prior to the rain.
Yep.
Now, there's going to be some gusty winds when it rains. When we were outside, we got a big, strong, cold gust. We actually get with the RFD, there's some circulation going on. This is a fancy word for a rear flank downdraft. You get cold air that kind of rushes in behind a cell, and you can definitely tell the difference between the warm air gusts ahead of it and the cold air behind it.
100%.
So don't wait for the rain or the hail or stuff like that. The wind's going to be prior to that, and that could be upwards of 40, 50, maybe 60 miles per hour. Now, then when you get the rain involved, you're still going to get some gusty winds. We're still getting gusts here at the station at about 40 miles an hour, even with the rain falling. But that initial push, don't wait for the rain. It's going to happen before that.
100%.
Another thing, just quickly looking at some of the comment section. Y'all are doing great, by the way, with the comment section, giving us the latest information.
We're very grateful for
and
that.
answering other people's questions. There have been questions about, are we focusing on Alabama or Tennessee? People were saying, hey, we're focusing on Tennessee right now. If you can answer those questions based on what we've said, please do that. Your proactiveness in the chat is absolutely phenomenal right now. So
we're community based. We can all help each
Exactly.
other. If you have any information that we said and you want to remind others, hey, you know what? We absolutely appreciate your help there. So again, thanks for the reports too.
Yep.
We those are just absolutely invaluable. Nothing beats ground truth. So certainly that is very, very helpful to us. Is that just a regular update?
I think so on that severe thunderstorm warning. So again, we're still seeing some comments, people asking questions. People talk about Giles County. We can zoom in there real quick, and I think
sure.
we can probably get back to our radar to an extent. It's probably
we're
not
still within that. We're not too attenuated.
attenuated right now, but that gust front's now moving through Pulaski.
Yep. You want to check velocities
Yep.
there? We'll probably. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That leading edge is it's probably now east of town, right about
Yeah,
there.
as far as the gust front goes, we're probably around here. Or right around there, kind of in that vicinity. Behind it, as you were mentioning earlier, Taylor, you can still see there are some rough conditions with that. Just eyeballing it, that's probably 35 to 40. I'm actually taking a look at Lynx 3 off the camera here, and there's a pretty good shelf cloud in Ardmore. There you go.
Here you go.
Perfect. Yeah, there you go. So here's
A
Ardmore.
little bit of a
A bit of
suspicious
a
low.
protuberance. Yeah, you get a few
You got a
of
little
these.
beaver tail going in there too.
You do, right here. How about that? We'll have to keep an eye on that. And matter of fact, Ardmore's within our radar range if you want to.
Matter of fact, let me hang on a second. That
go ahead.
Honestly looks pretty suspicious. So let me
It does, yeah.
zoom in. It should zoom in right in on it.
Yeah, I think we're centered up already. How about that? There we go. All right.
So this is going to be one of those that you can get little spins.
Yep. A little bit lower there. You can kind of see how it protrudes out from the base a little bit. And, even if you squint, you get down here closer to the surface, I'm kind of crouching a little funny. You see that
right
little
there.
bit of scud rising into it. So, you do get these little spin ups of rotation in it. And I'm not saying spin up as in tornado. I'm just saying as in a mesovortex, right? You get a little bit of wind punching behind it. That can kind of cause a little bit of turbulence. And, right now I'm not seeing anything that screams imminent tornado with this, but it's very good eye that you caught that because you do have that kind of inflow going right into it here. You got that base lowered just a little bit. Certainly it's things like this that you do want to watch because, we mentioned it. The tornado threat's not necessarily zero on days like this. So we'll keep an eye on that there. Not seeing anything that screams like right now this is going to be
And
a
I'm not
problem.
seeing anything on velocity data
good.
either. But one of the cool things, if you're a weather enthusiast out there or just curious, if you're able to do so safely, that's something that we did earlier. If you get the gust front that comes in, you start kind of getting that leading edge of stuff. If you look up, you'll see some stuff that just tries to spin. You'll see all these little type of vortices that will try to, they're not rotating tightly. They're not producing stuff. You'll see some rolling motion. You'll see some twists that are going up in the sky.
Some eddies.
Some eddies and stuff. That's all part of what we call fluid dynamics. All the air
amazing.
is just like a fluid. It just moves, it morphs, it does all these little things. And on a day like today, that's really cool to look at, especially if you're interested in the weather. Like I said, if you're able to do it safely, if you don't
get a
have a
lot
lot
of
of
those.
lightning going on or whatnot, just while it's coming through, just go ahead and look up and you can see all those little eddies and stuff in the clouds. And that just shows how interesting the atmosphere is today, where there's not a lot of spin to produce these tornadoes, but there's enough spin and enough interaction going on with everything that you get these little vortices. You get these little cool features that
You're
you can
basically
actually
seeing
look at.
turbulence in action.
You
really.
are. You're seeing turbulence in action. When you go up with your airplane, you start kind of getting bumpy and stuff like that.
That's why.
That's why.
That's why.
You start seeing those little eddies.
Yeah, and there we go. Speaking of eddies, this one just as soon as it was born,
Yep, there it goes.
It went ahead and kind of poofed away. Right, these things are very quick in nature, and that's what we mean by brief when we talk about the chances of rotation.
And see, there's another one to the right side of it too.
Let me step off here real quick. Yeah, I mean, you do see they kind of hand off every now and then, and I'll pull this off here. Yeah, there you go. So you can kind of watch these areas where the base is lower a little bit, and those are your chances of locally higher wind gusts, maybe 50 to 60 miles an hour. And, if you do get a spin up, that's where you'll have that tornado threat. But right now, I'm not seeing anything that screams that. Certainly very interesting to see this unfolding, though. And, of course, you have that big, broad shelf cloud across the entire, pretty much the entire leading edge of this gust front right now. So I guess we're looking northwest, right?
Yeah, that's
Ardmore?
roughly northwest.
Yeah, so very interesting site there, very interesting site. And of course on
Obviously, you see the
velocities,
velocity, there's no rotation hardly.
these are just those very quick, mesovorticey type things that come and go. I really, to be honest with you, don't see huge tornado chances with those. And you see this kind of choppiness, that actually increases my confidence a little bit that we might be seeing a few areas that did see some gusts earlier, maybe not so much now. So certainly some good signs there. If you want to take a look at, let's do radar network, and then we're going to go back to that severe in just a moment. First, I want to take a look at the big picture view. Pretty solid line of some scattered thunderstorm activity from Murfreesboro all the way down. Looks like where we're really watching for the highest chance locally right now of severe weather is where that warning is. Quickly approaching Russellville. We can take a look back at that if you'd like. So that goes until, 3:30?
3:30.
That's 3:30. Primary threat with this, damaging winds, 60 miles an hour, and hail up to an inch in diameter. That is for western portions of Franklin County, southern portions of Colbert County. Looks like the cores are starting to merge a little bit. It's down here, north of 172, south of 24 near Bell Green, where we started to see that core kind of develop pretty quickly, and maybe even some hail, right? It wouldn't have shocked me if we saw some Nichols to quarters down there. If you want to take a look back at velocity again, we can kind of diagnose and see what we got there. A little messy.
That gust front's way out ahead of it now.
Yeah, we spoke about that earlier. We don't need to rehash that too much, but certainly in that sense, you'll be seeing that gust front way out ahead of it. Still a little connected. If you want to go back to reflectivity, we'll I'll kind of keep my finger there. So it's starting to get out ahead of it just a little bit. So we're starting to see conditions change, and this perhaps err on the more elevated side. Elevated means the instability source is above the ground much more as opposed to surface-based, where it's tapping into that moist atmosphere in the lowest levels. And that's a good thing, generally speaking. If it becomes elevated, that's a good thing. So we're watching that. This goes until 3:30. Matter of fact, it's kind of creeping out of the box just a little bit here.
It's getting close.
Yeah, it's kind of getting a little bit close there. And of course, if they reissue it, we'll let you know. I'm not too sure what they're thinking there. But you got any reports, questions, anything like that over there?
I mean, just people talk about how it's starting to, come down pretty heavy rain. There's still some gusty winds around. I'm not seeing anything like what we had earlier where people were like just going off of, hey, there's power lines down here. We're out of power. One of them, it looked like their trailer was about to get tipped over by the wind. I'm not really seeing a lot of that right now. Megan talk about how we are at 59 here. Went from 72 degrees to 64 really fast up on Highway 64.
Absolutely.
So you're going to get a rush of cool air behind this stuff.
Yeah. We're at 50. Yep. We're at 59 here.
59. Lane is saying I'm just off of Glen Springs. Had a good shower, some heavy wind gusts, but nothing too rough over there. Good. And it's going to be spotty. Some places are going to get rougher than others, but for the most part, everybody's going to see some pretty gusty winds moving through. No power on Dukes Park and Summertown. We talked about the power outages earlier, and they're probably going to continue to go up. The good thing is, let me get where's my cursor at? Let me get the lightning counter. So in this frame, I'll get you, take you full so you can see. In this frame, 46. There's 46 strikes in the past 15 minutes. When we take a look at the whole area, only 81. This is not a huge lightning producer whatsoever.
Yeah, and you kind of see that gap too in Lauderdale County, Limestone County. Doesn't mean you won't get those winds, but we really have been isolated throughout the day. That really is the name of the game here. Taylor's totally right in the sense that not all of us are going to be seeing this big push of 70 miles an hour, nothing like that, right? The highest gusts are going to be isolated in little spots that come and go very quickly. That's where we'll see those 55, 60s, maybe even higher. But I think all of us, or I won't say all of us, but many of us will probably see 35, 40, 45 over the next, like I said, hour and a half to 2 hours. Right now, it's probably just pushing into Ardmore. I'm looking at the Ardmore cam, and we're really close to that too. So over the next little bit, we're starting to get on the tail end of this system.
And we are getting some questions. We already kind of talked about the little spin-up potential, but this is more specific. Jessica asking, should we be concerned about spin-ups in the Muscle Shoals area? And I can go ahead and tell you, with the gust front way out here, it's likely not going to happen.
I agree with that. Yeah, I would say Florence to Muscle Shoals, I think our tornado threat's pretty much over with. And even still, remember how we were talking about the tornado threat was low, but you see this kind of choppy look. That's not a good look if you're a tornado. I'll put it that way. I think that's just one of our regular updates there. But yeah, as far as tornado threat goes in the shoals, Muscle Shoals, Florence, Killen up to Central Heights especially, I think we're really tapering off there. I don't think we have big issues there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, just the way, the gust front, if you're going to have something that could produce a tornado, you want the storms to be with the gust front.
Yeah, you want
because
this
that actually lets the storm ingest the spin associated with it.
Yeah.
Gust front's way out ahead of it. It can't do anything.
Yeah, gust front's right here.
Yep.
Storms are over here.
Yep.
You're not going to get a tornado with conditions like that. Hey, all right, never say never, but look, you would really have to stretch the laws of physics to go ahead and get something like that. And I like that. That's a good sign, right? Now, down here, we were talking earlier with this severe, and you can even see down south, it does connect to the gust front a little bit. So it is surface based on the south there from Hackleburg, just south of us here to Phil Campbell. But, even as it is right now, we're not seeing anything that screams rotation at the moment. And, that's a good thing, of course. They're actually starting to trim that warning just a little bit as it continues to push east. And I've not seen any word that they're going to reissue it. Of course, that'll be in the next.
The core doesn't look as significant. I'll kind of come back a little bit. That's when it was really starting to kind of get going right here.
Yeah, right around there.
And now the core is definitely, you're starting to lose a lot of the pinks and purples.
I agree with that. It's starting to merge with the overall line here. I mentioned this in my weather shows this morning, and we mentioned this live earlier. You just don't get a lot of hail whenever you start to get these updrafts interacting with each other like this. These multicellular type situations, just not conducive for a lot. But it was out there on its own for a little bit, so it's definitely the right call that a severe was issued for hail and for wind. I think wind remains the primary issue with this out there at the moment.
Other than that, obviously that's the only warning on the board here.
Otherwise we got nothing on the board.
We got nothing else on the board, but just kind of going back up here into parts of Tennessee, we're getting less attenuation now on our live radar. Just kind of checking back in. This doesn't look like what it did earlier, and I can go back if it's still.
Are you talking about where it was kind of Deerfield-ish?
Yeah, let me see if I can get back. This is over an hour. Let me go 2 hours.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
So
right around
just
here.
kind of
there you go.
Just showing you what would be like a template today for seeing some of those strong winds. Notice how all that's very bright green.
Yeah, if you highlighted that earlier, or well, you don't have to necessarily, but that was probably 60, 65.
Yeah.
Notice how over time, as this continues east and those greens become reds, as it becomes outbound, they really decrease in the intensity. Notice the colors start to really get a little more drab, I think really is the best way to put it. That's a good thing.
See, it was pretty bright there.
There you go. Yeah, that means higher winds. Drifted east a little bit, much more drab colors, much more subtle colors. That's a good sign. That means the winds are overall lowering. And, we haven't been hearing quite as many reports, so I'm liking the trend right now. I still fully anticipate that there will be gusts, 45, 50, 55, but I'm starting to suspect maybe it's a little less widespread than it was, at least as far as the southern Tennessee portion of it is concerned, and maybe even in North Alabama as we start to get this kind of choppy, elevated look with this velocity. So the trend is kind of our friend right now. I'm liking what I see.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. The trend is definitely our friend. You're not seeing all those, big bright greens and bright reds like what we saw earlier. And yes, that did cause damage. That was verified. That, hey, there's some stuff going on here.
If you want to take a look back, sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you want to take a look back at the power outage map, I like to keep up with that because last time we were sitting right around 1,000 in Lawrence County, and so we're starting to get some in Colbert County and Franklin County too, no surprise. So 900 here in Lawrence County, 300 in Lauderdale, 400 in Colbert, and 400 in Franklin. So we're sitting right around 1,800 without power right now. Across the area, if my quick math serves me right, near 800, 2,000, I think 2,000,
right around 2,000.
So certainly impacts are ongoing and certainly impacts have occurred. But you know what, I'll say this much, I've seen worse. I remember April of 2022 had a big batch that was 70 mile an hour for everybody, and we had 95,000 without power. So thankfully this is not that. I'm liking what I see with the trends, but we still do have this warning. And you know what, I guess we'll go ahead and let this warning ride. That goes
we've also got a report. Say again. It's got about 20 minutes left.
Go ahead with your report.
So Jacob says he's traveling from Littleville to Florence.
Okay.
Tracking the eastern edge of it, and it's heavy rain, lightning, gusts around 40. He said currently in Tuscumbia, heavy rain and cloud coverage, but low winds close to 10 miles an hour there
deal.
in Tuscumbia. So that's going to be obviously behind the line, so you're not going to get as much wind energy going on behind that. Your temperature's probably 10 degrees cooler back there too. He also says he's heading into Florence to check damage and outages. I really haven't seen much damage
Out of the
power
sales area?
outage, power poles, the stuff that we saw in southern Tennessee. I haven't really seen a lot of that in northwestern Alabama.
Yeah, me neither.
Doesn't mean that it's obviously happening because we've gotten some power issues, and I say that actually could just be from lightning. Who knows?
I mean, it could be anything, right?
It could be anything. But I will say, if there's anything good that I'm seeing from our chat room right now, there's not a lot of reports of people seeing a lot of bad stuff going on in northwestern Alabama. But Jacob's out there. He's going to kind of travel up and see what's going on.
Looks like they went ahead and let that warning go early.
It looks like they
there
did too. Cheyenne is asking about the Limestone County area, so we can kind of pan over
Switch
here
to,
real quick. Switch to high
Let's
top.
switch to high top, yeah. So Limestone County, we might even be able to see the gust front. Yeah, you can kind of see
yeah,
it
a little
there.
bit.
There you go. Oh, so it's already past 65. There you go.
Yeah.
At least in southern Tennessee. So as far as Limestone County is concerned, gust front's moving through the northwestern third right about now. Let's call it Ardmore to Elkmont, moving east at about 40. Yeah, about 40. We'll call out some times of arrival here. Right now in Jerusalem and Elkmont, so we just called out that community there. Ripley at 3:14, Blackburn at 3:16, Ardmore in just a matter of 10 minutes, Thatch at 3:20, Flower Hill 3:21, Piney Chapel 3:21, Lawson and Athens at 3:23, Pinedale 3:23, Sardis Springs, that's near Belmont Estates, at 3:27, Pisgah 3:29, Taft 3:29, and Maple Hill at 3:30. So let's call it Monrovia Harvest around 3:30 to 3:35 as well, pushing into the western Huntsville metro over the next 45 minutes to an hour, I'd say.
Here's a shelf cloud.
Oh, beautiful.
Leading edge of it.
There you go. Wow. So here in Ardmore,
Looks
look at that.
77.
Yeah, look at that beautiful striated rain behind it. I mean, that's a really wonderful sight. Really beautiful. 77 though, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's still pretty juicy
Well,
out there. We're still on the opposite side of that front.
Yeah, you mentioned the rain. Look how it's angled. So there's your wind.
Yeah.
There's your
that
wind driving the rain.
pushing that wind out, or the rain is being pushed out by that wind. Very, very interesting and very beautiful sight there. Shelf cloud right here, calm before the storm. That's it right there. Look at those winds west at 3 miles an hour. Give us, like I said, about 10 minutes and we're probably going to start seeing gusts here. And you know what? As this comes over our sensor here in Ardmore, this will be very telling as to what it's doing right now. Right, so that's going to be very helpful. We've already lost that severe thunderstorm warning. They've let that go ahead and expire down in Colbert and Franklin County because that storm is just kind of meandering. It's kind of merged. It's not looking quite as severe as it was. So that's good news, certainly.
Yeah, and Jason making a comment, kind of like what we talked about earlier, where if you actually went outside and kind of looked up, you can kind of see some swirls
eddies,
and
yeah.
stuff going on. He said he got a lot of clouds that just passed over him. He's in the Elkton area. Okay. The lower level clouds are moving in a different direction. So yeah, there's that. We have that little bit of some wind shear. It's not a whole lot. It's not enough to get like a big time tornado day, but it's enough that you are going to get some movement in the clouds that are going to have rotation with it.
And I mean, you can get clouds that, flow into it.
Yes.
And these clouds push out and, they look a little suspicious. And, me and Taylor, we even saw that out there. But
it's cool to look at.
Oh, it's really cool to look at.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we talk about it with a little bit, a lack of reverence because look how high these bases are. I won't bore you with the technical details, but the cloud bases are really particularly high. If you wanted to see a tornado, which, hey, some people, I guess, but if you wanted to see a tornado, you want those a little bit lower. Not seeing anything too imminent with that. So that, in the strictest sense, is actually a very good thing.
But funny enough, you mentioned that. That's probably what caused the winds to be a little bit higher than what we kind of were anticipating.
It is a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword because what he was talking about, if you have the clouds that are that high up, it's very hard the tornado is a cylinder of air and it has to stretch. It has to stretch from the ground up into the storm. And you want those cloud bases to almost hug the ground because it's easier for the vortex to reach the surface. On the flip side, for wind,
for straight line winds especially.
For straight line winds, you notice how the air was cooler as some of that rain kind of comes through. You get a little bit of evaporative cooling that goes on because the cloud bases are a little bit higher, and that can actually help drive down the winds a little bit better to the surface. So I wouldn't be shocked if the cloud bases were just that high and that actually allowed us to get a little bit more of that wind energy to come down to the ground.
That's our monkey's paw, definitely. Yeah, less tornado threat, more wind threat, certainly.
I'm going to take you forward quick. Haley's saying, take a look at the Frank Ewing cam.
Frank Ewing?
So let me.
Yeah, let's do it. And again, hey, thanks for calling stuff out.
Yeah,
If you see stuff,
please.
that looks interesting and you think we haven't seen it, please do just like that. We'll go ahead and switch to it. We're switching to it now. I kind of see it in the background. We're underneath the whale's mouth. Is that right?
I think so.
Let's take a look here. We're going to pop up Frank
She
Ewing.
said there's a very good lowering, so.
Well, if nothing else, we are under the whale's mouth of that. The shelf cloud is kind of pushed out. We'll switch around.
Well, there's your rain shaft
yeah,
right
there you
there.
go.
For sure. Just kind of swing things around here. There's your water tower.
Yeah, here comes the massive wall of rain, too.
Yep.
Now, I will say I didn't immediately see any concerning lowering. We can do a 360 here. That's behind it.
So this is looking east now, or northeast, I should say. So there's your sun. That's going to be the leading edge of the shelf
Yep,
cloud
here's your
right
shelf.
there.
Here's a shelf, and shelf clouds are often confused with wall clouds. Wall clouds are usually much more consolidated and much more
That's
central.
due south.
So thankfully, I'm not seeing anything too concerning. Thanks for pointing that out, though. Very glad you showed us that because we are on the underside of it now. Conditions aren't showing right now. Don't worry about that. But I'm sure our temperatures are probably taking a plummet right now, probably into the 60s here in Frank Ewing at the moment. But
She
nice
said it
view.
was there, but it's gone away. So
okay.
again, it's not.
I believe
it's
that. I
definitely
mean-
possible. We believe you. We believe you.
Certainly,
There's
yeah.
probably a little bit of a lowering that tried to get going. We've seen these come and go.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
yeah.
where if we were to so-called get a brief spit-up tornado,
That's where
you would get
that's
it.
where
You
you
would
get
get a little bit of a concentrated area rotation. The clouds lower a little bit, but there's just not enough wind shear to actually allow that to stretch to the surface. So it just fizzles away within about, maybe even a minute or 2 minutes.
60 to 90 seconds.
In
and
60
those
to 90
things can go away.
seconds.
I mean, we
Yeah.
saw it on the Ardmore cam earlier,
Yeah.
So I certainly believe that.
Yeah,
of
we
course.
definitely believe that you saw something. And you can definitely see, I'll put you full again, you see those little tiny little
You get a few notches here.
little
and there.
notches here and there. So yeah, the lower atmosphere is very turbulent right now. That's probably the best way to put it. So you're going to get these little eddies and stuff. So yeah, you probably saw a little I guess you would consider it a baby wall cloud.
Baby wall cloud,
if you will.
The very beginnings of one, perhaps
Yeah.
even. Yeah, certainly. So how about this? Let's switch back to Radar Network on Links 2.
And real quick,
yeah,
there
go
was
ahead.
someone who was saying, I'm guessing you're about to do a reset. There's
Yeah, I just
people
wanna do a
asking
quick
about
big picture.
Lawrenceburg and some places behind the lines.
There you go.
wanna take
I was
that?
actually
Yep.
just about to do that because we're getting into a pretty good spot right now where warnings have been dropped and we're starting to drop those watches. So we're getting into a good spot now. So here's the big picture, right? It is currently 3:16 in the afternoon. We had a warning earlier down in Franklin County and Colbert County. That's gone now. So did you say you had questions about Lawrenceburg, stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think she's mentioned the Hascam. The Hascam's down. We do understand that
yeah.
it's been kind of coming going today, but the other hand, it's possible she was just asking, hey, what's going on in Lawrenceburg too? So
I'll
maybe
be
some
glad to take a
questions
look.
about what's going on behind the line.
So here's the line, of course, that we've been keeping an eye on. You can even see that gust front. That's moving through the I-65 corridor right now. I want to talk actually about behind it real quick here, since that's what you guys are asking about. I think the biggest population center right now that is just now ending the severe threats, Pulaski. Everything west of Pulaski, we're done with severe weather. We are pretty much set for the night here. Rain continues, and you even see some lightning strikes way in the back here, right? That's kind of what I was saying about those anvil crawlers. You get that electrical field spreading over hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Man, they can look really cool.
Oh, they can look beautiful, but thankfully they're pretty much innocuous. Obviously, if thunder roars, go indoors, but certainly severe weather-wise, Lawrenceburg, good to go. Good to go. Lawrence County, you're good to go. Lewis County up here, Wayne County, Hardin County, and further north and west, you are good to go. No more severe weather for this evening. The main threat for that continues to be through Limestone County, Lawrence County in Alabama, Madison County, east of 65, talking out towards Fayetteville as well, and down towards, say, Hartselle, Decatur, and Morgan County. So as of right now, yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot. I've certainly seen a very big decrease as far as those reports go. If you want to take, let's take one more look here at what we've been watching there in Franklin County. Even though it's not severe, you do want to kind of...
And that gust front's now, down here in Marion County, it's like 4 miles out ahead of
Several miles,
ahead of the line. So
And if you take a quick glance at it, you'll say, oh wow, that looks like it might be hooking. But watch that. Yeah, I pretty much could have predicted that. These cells might look a little tricky on reflectivity, but you're just not going to get anything too substantial if your gust front is that far out ahead of it. So I like what I see. I like what I see. That's still definitely a strong storm, no doubt about it. Lots of lightning in Russellville. In fact, if you're in Russellville, it's probably very noisy out there. So hopefully you're inside, right? But as of right now,
and the comments and stuff for any reports are also getting kind of very Usually at this point now, it's just, hey, it's thunder and lightning outside, maybe some gusty winds. I'm not seeing anything that's like, holy cow, our barn just got, tossed aside, or we've
Good.
had,
It's a good thing,
power. Yeah, it's a good thing. We got power outages. We've got power lines that are leaning. I'm not seeing any of that anymore outside of just, hey, it's thunder and lightning. It's a little bit of some gusty winds outside. So the worst of this, I hope, has already kind of happened. But we've got a ways to go. The fact that there's not a lot of those bright reds and everything from near Athens up towards Ardmore and up into the Frank Ewing area, that's some good sign. That's some good sign. I would be more concerned if this started to really start to see a lot more of those stronger cells, stronger cores within the line. So
look at that axis too.
Yeah, look at the axis too. It's starting to kind of lay out over itself, which is good. Yeah. You don't want this to be kind of north and south oriented. You want it to be slanted like that in this situation.
Yeah,
so
this is definitely a good prognosis here as far as that's concerned.
But other than that, I think we're good to take a break right now.
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing anything that's overly suspicious, and people aren't really saying, hey, there's some bad stuff going on right now. So I think we're good to take a break.
Yep, I'm with you there. So, thanks everybody for tuning in and letting us know what you were seeing. That it's just an absolute help. We've been trying to kind of remind ourselves and everybody that watches us that this is first and foremost a community venture, right? So you guys letting us know what you're seeing, just absolutely invaluable. Always do so safely, please. Just make sure you have that front and center. More than anything, we just want you to let us know what you're seeing while you're doing your safety plans and things like that. So don't go out of your way to report things like that unless you're trained. But nevertheless, thank you very much all for that. So we're at a good stopping point.
It's 3:20. So I would say maybe, unless obviously there's another warning, if things are, hopefully are still calm, but about 4 o'clock. At that point, I think it's probably getting into the Huntsville metro area. So a few more people probably want to know, hey, is there anything changed by that point? So maybe do another update closer around 4 o'clock.
Maybe. So that sounds like a good idea because we will be getting into some big population centers. So we're going to take 40 here. It's 3:20 at the moment. We'll be back with you at 4, not only for those folks in the Huntsville metro that'll be just tuning in as those storms settle in, but also behind it. We'll keep you updated. And if any warnings are issued before that, we'll come live here with you and keep you updated. But as of right now, we're in a good holding pattern. I'm here with Taylor Plott in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center. Thanks for joining us here, and tune back in at 4 for the latest from the Weather Center.
You're watching the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel.